Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. All right. Okay, let's get things started. Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the 3-day portfolio challenge. I'm Azara. I'm your facilitator for today's event, and it's so great to see you all again. Yesterday, we learned all about scoping a clear and intentional project for your portfolio, and so today is where things are going to start taking shape. And if you felt that spark of momentum yesterday, that's exactly what we want. Today, Maggie's going to walk you through all the steps of a project build. You're going to see her spider framework in action, how she makes decisions as she goes. We're using AI to support the workflow, debugging, and documenting your thinking so that hiring managers can actually see your reasoning. And this is a really exclusive look into how this work actually gets done and also how to do it well. So pay super close attention. And remember that you can always watch the demo later in the challenge community if you need to refresh your memory. We have a QR code in the upper right-hand corner that's going to take you to the community. And I'm also about to share a link in the chat as well. So if you're not in there yet, go ahead and just get in there now. It's really great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into today's demonstration. Maggie, take it away.
Hello. Thank you so much for the introduction, Zara. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming yesterday. And it was really great to see all of you interacting in the community. So I read every single one of your posts yesterday, all the questions that you had, and the little cards that you created. It was so honestly, like really inspiring. Like I know Samantha, you're a stay-at-home mom for 3 years and you're ready to break into tech. Asia is a master of engineering data science students at UCLA, and you're building an AI ingredients analyzer project, which you have me thinking about for a very long time. That looked really, really interesting. Ada is pivoting from customer solutions. Pinkush, who just landed a job after being laid off. Congratulations, and working as a data analyst for 7 years. And yeah, it's also really great to see you guys like interacting with each other in the community. I see some networking already going on. Just want to re-emphasize that you get what you put into the event and how much you take advantage of that. It's entirely up to you, and your community and your network is your biggest asset. So great to see everything that's happening, and let's keep the good energy up. With that being said, we have talked about this a little bit in one of the emails sending out a couple of days ago. We do have a leaderboard in the community as well. And the way that you earn points in this leaderboard is by getting engagement from other people. So you're being rewarded for posting thoughtful content that other people like, other people engage with, and whoever is on the top by tomorrow will win a resume review for free, or however I can help you in your journey. This screenshot I took really late last night, but we'll see how this turns out tomorrow. Okay, so yesterday we covered finding ideas for your portfolio projects, 4 ways to find ideas, how to find portfolio ideas, common portfolio pitfalls, where to find good data sources. And today we're going to be talking about the spider framework and how to leverage AI to speed up the process in every step of building your portfolio. By the end of today's session, you will have the framework to structure your project. That's what the spider framework is. You know how to use AI to speed things up without cheating, and you have a clear plan for what to build for tonight. I know I originally planned to teach the spider framework on day 3, but I did move it up because I think it's going to give us a better flow and help you get into the project building easier if you understand what you're working towards. And once you know the structure, I can show you then exactly where AI helps. I will demo one of my projects in the past and how everything connects together. Yeah, and you have any question, leave them in the comments. I didn't have the chat up yesterday, but I do today. So I'll try to keep an eye out to see as questions come in. Okay, so let me introduce you to the SPIDER framework. This is the framework that I followed to get my first data scientist job, got my foot in the door right after my undergraduate degree, and it has helped a lot of other people land their interviews as well. When I was reviewing applications as a hiring manager, helping my team expand, I would spend anywhere between 30, 90 seconds on each resume that contains portfolio projects, sometimes a little bit more if there's a lot to explore for me and it's very interesting on their personal site. Within that time frame, I'm searching for answers to one question: can this person actually do the work that we have in mind for the position? And so you can think of SPIDER framework as how to present your project at the end. We're working a little bit backwards here. So once you understand what you need to present and all the components that go into your presentation, then you can have a clear goal to building your project and maybe you won't feel as lost. I moved this up because I got quite a bit of feedback yesterday as well. So SPIDER stands for summary, problem, inputs, discovery, execution, and results. And we'll go deep into detail with every single one of them. So the first one is S, which stands for summary. Basically, this is your elevator pitch at the top of every project. And think of it like abstract of a research paper or the TLDR section of a newsletter. In 3 to 5 sentences, you should be covering and telling me the context of your problem. Okay, can people see my slides? Nobody can see my slides. That's a good question. Okay, thank you, Natalia. Just, can you guys see it now? I'm so sorry. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is what I had before. It's just basically a outline again for what's happening on day 1, day 2, and day 3. Thank you so much for pointing that out. The SPIDER framework: summary, problem, inputs, discovery, execution, and results. And this slide is also going to be available afterwards, but thank you so much for pointing that out. And where I was is on this slide: summary. So your elevator pitch, similar to abstract of a research paper, 3 to 5 sentences covering context, action, data, methods, and results. All right. Yeah, so by the end of this section, I should be able to read this and immediately understand why your project matters and what data science skills were involved, what data you used, what kind of methodology was involved. And how AI comes in is, I know this is a big blurb. This is what I'm going to put into AI for my project. Let me just show you very quickly the project that I'll be using to demo today. You should be able to see on screen a code interface. Don't be intimidated if you are looking for a non-coding role. This is basically just where my code lives for this project. And some of you might have already seen this before. It's my bike share dashboard that I also have an entire YouTube video on how to build step by step. I'm just going into my terminal right now, and I want to show you really quickly what the final dashboard or interactive web app looks like. First, I'm going to activate my Conda environment. I never remember my environment name, so we're going to look it up using Conda info. Standing for environment. Okay, so I'm looking for bike share Streamlit. Conda activate bike share Streamlit. Okay, so now that environment is activated, the way I'm going to run this app locally is to use Streamlit run. Again, this is like very specific to my project. You don't have to know how to do this at all. Streamlit run bike share app.py. That's going to spin up a local host. Then I can view this on my or in my browser. There we go. Yeah. Just wanted to give you an understanding of what this project is about before I show demos of how AI is involved. So I tapped into the API live data here from, available from Toronto's open data portal. Everything here is live. These are the bike stations that are in Toronto. I have a little bit of a metric section, how many bikes are available now in all of the city of Toronto, and whether you want to rent a bike or you want to return a bike, what kind of bike you want to rent, where you're located. For example, 1 Yonge Street, find me a bike, then that's going to update the map. Oh, okay. Live demo never works. Let's try it again. What if we put in mechanical bike? HTTPS connection pool. Okay, there's something going on in my code that this is not working. Let's see if return is working. Find me a doc. This is if you already have a bike station and you want to return. Okay. Anyways, this is the project. And you can also use AI to fix these problems pretty easily. So here, what I want to do is I want to activate Cloud Code. There are many different AI apps that you can use here. I use Cloud Code because it's built in right into my editor. You can also use like Cursor, Warp, Windsurf. There are a lot of standalone app out there that you can also leverage. So to turn on Cloud Code, I'm going to start a new terminal and just type in Cloud. I already have everything downloaded, so Cloud Code already lives in my terminal. And I'm going to copy and paste over the presentation if I still have it. Okay, give me 1 second. All right. So here's a presentation again. Can I copy and paste from here? I cannot. I'm just going to type it in. I built an interactive web app using live API data for Toronto bike share users to find nearest available bike and docking stations in real time. So I'm giving it context on the use case for my project. You have access to my code in this folder. Write a summary for me in 3 to 5 sentences. Tell me the context of this problem, what I did technically, where the data came from, methodology, and key findings. A hiring manager should be able to read this and immediately understand why this project matters and what data science skills are involved. And of course, if you build a project that's not, that doesn't have code involved, you can just put the same blurb applied to your project in ChatGPT or just Cloud Console interface. Let's see what it gave us. This project addresses a critical urban mobility challenge by creating a real-time bike share optimization tool for Toronto's 800+ station network, solving the nearest available bike problem that plagues bike share users daily. I built an interactive Streamlit web application that consumes live GBFS, General Bike Share Fleet Specification API data, which it got it right, from Toronto's bike share system, implementing geospatial algorithms to calculate optimal station recommendations based on user location, bike type preferences, and real-time availability constraints. The application integrates multiple APIs, including geocoding services, routing algorithms, OSRM, and interactive mapping, Folium, to provide users with turn-by-turn directions and estimated travel times to their optimal station. That's the part where it was supposed to show, but didn't work today. Key technical skills demonstrated include real-time data pipeline development, geospatial analysis, using geodesic distance calculations, API integration, and data transformation. And key data science skills demonstrated were API processing, geospatial analysis, distance optimization algorithms, data pipeline architecture, interactive data visualization, and user-centric product development. Like, I don't think I could have ever summarized it this good, as good as what Claude is giving me right now. So use AI to your advantage. Don't write the code using AI entirely. Use it to debug and use it to summarize your project, to comment your code, so it's easily readable. Okay, so after summary, the next one in the Spider framework is P, and P stands for problem. This is where you can prove you understand the business context. Why does this problem matter? Who would care about solving it? What's the scope that you're tackling? For example, if you're analyzing customer churn, and you're saying there's 23% churn rate, but if you don't explain why a 23% churn rate is actually really devastating for a SaaS company, then you're not doing a good enough job connecting the dots between data and business impact. You want to build that in here. One way you can use AI for this is to summarize impact. So write a short 1 to 3 sentences paragraph defining the problem space for this project, clearly define the stakeholder involved. Let's try. I didn't test this out, so I'm actually curious what it'll give me. So write a short 1 to 3 sentences paragraph defining the problem space for this project. Clearly define who the stakeholders are and what problem this would solve for them. Okay, Toronto bike share users frequently encounter the frustration of walking to a station only to find no available bikes or arriving at their destination with no available dock spaces, leading to wasted time, increased transportation costs, and reduced adoption of sustainable transit options. But this is actually, I feel like it's a little bit long for me, so let's just tell it to, can you make the problem statement more concise? I don't want to take the focus away from my actual project. Yeah, so waste time and money walking to stations. This tool serves commuters who need reliable bike access. That's great. Okay, another way you can leverage AI here for your problem is to fill a knowledge gap. So, for example, you would use this at the beginning of your ideation stage before you know what you're building. Maybe you want to break into healthcare, but you've never worked in healthcare before. Or in this case, if you want to work at city government analyzing data, but you've never worked, you can use AI to help you fill that knowledge gap and have it tell you what are some of the problems that government employees are actually facing today, and how you can approach the problem, and how you can help them solve it. After summary and problem, in your portfolio project write-up is inputs. This is where what I is. I stands for inputs, Or in other words, this is your data sources. You want to list everything, government API, web scraping, synthetic data that you created yourself. This shows you're resourceful and you will give context for the rest of your work. Um, an example of this is ideally, and you should know what data you used, and you should know kind of your thought process on cleaning the data and finding different data sources. But if you must ask AI, they're pretty capable these days, and like the demo example that we just had before, it was able to pull exactly the name for the data set and data sources that I used. So you can tell it to look through your code or look through your analysis in the folder and identify data sources used, including API and user uploaded data, and return a list of these data sources. Next is D, and D stands for discovery. This is where your exploratory data analysis lives, and how you show your thinking process. Like, how did you clean the messy data? What patterns surprised you? What did you try that didn't work? This why, like I said, documentation is so important. Somebody who is looking at this would want to see your journey, not just a destination, right? So you want to include the dead ends, the methods that you tried that didn't work, the methods that you tried that did work, and you might think of these. You might think of the things that you did that were not part of the final presentation, but they're not failures. They actually showcase how you pivot and how you solve problem when unexpected things arise. A good example of this is if you tried random forest first, for example, as a machine learning model, and then you switched back to logistics regression because of a certain reason, interpretability requirements, because it was too complicated. You should tell that story in really brief couple of sentences and show the hiring manager how you make those strategic technical decisions. Yeah, and you can't really use AI here to write out your thinking process unless you keep everything your EDA in a Jupyter notebook. And after discovery is execution. This is like the big portion of your presentation, is your methodology and your strategic technical decisions. What techniques did you use and why? You should include code snippets here. But definitely don't dump your entire notebook in the presentation. That's going to take the focus away within that short time frame we talked about at the beginning. Um, so you can always include a GitHub or Google Colab link if the hiring manager wants to read your code further. But most of the time, they want to skim through this first. And the 80-20 rule is that only 20% of your presentation should have code, if there's any code at all, or should have any of the technical things that doesn't need to be here, but the rest 80% should be visualizations, your insights, everything else we talked about, summary, problem, inputs, and all your decision making framework and process. This is another thing we can test out live here in my Visual Studio Code editor. Based on existing code, summarize technical methods, including the models that I used, and include key code snippets that are a few lines long max, but contribute to shaping the project significantly. And because Claude tends to give really, really long outputs, we're going to limit this to, let's see what it gives first. Okay, so this is my last prompt, and it's telling me the technical methods used: real-time API, geospatial optimization algorithms, routing optimization algorithms, and that I should include these code snippets. That's actually pretty good. And in your write-up, you would separate out each snippet and kind of write descriptions in words in between them. And I'll show my actual portfolio tomorrow, and that will give you a good understanding of kind of how this works and what it looks like. And last but not least, the R in Spider stands for results and recommendations. What did you conclude? One of my favorite quote of all time from my statistics professor in school is that your projects don't exist in a vacuum, and you have to give context. Like, you have to, at the beginning, define your problem space, but also at the end, your project never just like ends within the scope of your project. You're going to hand your project to somebody else, maybe to engineering team, maybe to the product team, whatever the case may be. So you want to summarize here at the end of your presentation, what would you have done differently if you had more resources available? And what would you do next as a next step if you had more time and want to take this one step further? A couple prompt example here is: if this project was used in a professional work environment, what would you do differently in terms of collaboration, security, storage options, and hosting source? I came up with like collaboration, security, storage options, and hosting source for my project specifically. So if you can do a little bit of thinking here on your own, what the next step could be, then you can prompt your AI better, and it's going to give you better results in anticipation of what the hiring manager might ask during your interview process. And another standard one is: what are some of the next steps I can do to take this project one step further? And please never show your entire code base, and save that for GitHub. And that's where GitHub repositories would come in. Your portfolio project should tell the story of your analysis with enough technical detail to prove your skills and enough business context to show your judgment. Think about it like executive summary and technical showcase together on one page. Okay, so that was the first half of today's topic. Now that you know what your project should look like at the end, let's go back a little bit and talk about how you can actually build out your project with AI. This is your workflow for building, and for tonight, if you haven't started building yet, you have your data that you found and some ideas that you have from yesterday. And today, your first task would be ADA, which stands for Exploratory Data Analysis. You want to formulate the hypothesis and confirm the project scope that you said yesterday, your definition of done. Everything is still doable. You have the data required to carry out your project. This is what EDA is for. We'll go into detail for each of them in the next couple of slides, but just for now, there are 4 aspects of this. Next is to outline your spider. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. And building out your analysis, allocate a few hours depending on the complexity of your project. Set a hard deadline when you're going to be done, and follow strictly to your definition of done, which is very important. Otherwise, you may never finish your project. And don't forget to document as you go what worked, what didn't work. So you can include them in your write-up, and you can include them in your AI prompt as well, to have better results. The first one we talked about was EDA. So you would load your data in Excel, in your Jupyter Notebook, check what you've done, look for missing values, distributions, correlations, and any of the typical statistics here, like mean, median, correlation. and you want to formulate a hypothesis that you're trying to solve with your project, confirm your project scope, and things you can ask AI here is the knowledge gap that we talked about before. So what can I look for? What are some of the real world use cases that I can bake into this project before I even start coding or start doing the analysis? AI can also help you write code, like debugging most importantly, but it could hallucinate if you ask it for actual numbers. If you ask AI, this is my data set and tell me, what the median is for this. There's a chance they're just going to give you a random number. So if you ask them to write your code, it's going to be better because you can then check the logic if there's any fallacies in there. But otherwise, don't ask it to just give you results. The next step is to outline your spider, which we talked about before. Don't write it perfectly, just sketch it out. Write one sentence about what you are going to or planning on analyzing, why it matters. List your data sources. What surprised you in the EDA? What technique do you plan on using? And what do you think your conclusion might be? Build your analysis is next. So start simple here. This is something that I learned working on the job is that you want to start with a minimum viable product, something that's really, really simple and basic and see if it works. Because if it does work, then there's no need to spend more resources and time and money on a more complex model. And then you can add complexity one piece at a time there, depending on what your job is looking for. Follow definition of done. Again, set a deadline so you can actually finish your project. And you can ask AI to debug here. A couple of tools that I mentioned before, but there's really so many tools out there that's popping up every single day. So the things you're looking out for as you're building it out is documenting your pivotal moments. So when you made a decision to go into a different direction, when you decided this method doesn't work and you want to try a different one, or when you decided the data wasn't good enough, you have to look for a supplementary source. Make sure you write them down and kind of reflect on them later on. That's your thought process and how you can show that on paper. Save any interesting visualizations, flag them, note them down, so you haven't make it easier when you put everything together. Write down what didn't work, and you don't have to add comments to code anymore. I mean, it might still be a good practice to do it yourself, but I just find that AI does it so much better these days to add comments for someone who may have never seen your project before. And that's going to save a lot of time as well, especially for your portfolio project. If you run into any of these problems, just understand when to pivot and when to help. So if the data is worse than you thought, you would probably spend half an hour, I would say max, to try to go in there and see if you can fix any of it, or if you can find additional sources, or if you need to actually build data yourself. So if you have to generate any synthetic data, which might be a little too much work for data science portfolio, then decide when you can pivot. And if your approach isn't working, make sure you document, and try something simpler. And if you're stuck at any point, post in the community and get help. You have my full attention for the next couple of days. So ask your questions. If you're stuck, don't just be stuck in your room. Ask the question and we'll all help each other in the community. I know I said this before. I will say it again, and I will die on this tree. Yes, AI can do it. AI can write your code. AI can write your entire code base. AI can build web apps, anything these days, but don't use it in your portfolio project. You want to understand like your technical capabilities and just use AI to debug and comment afterwards. Great. For homework today, if you have already found your data and kind of defined your project, then you would follow this framework of spider and write out your outline. want to generate a couple visualizations that you would like to include in your final analysis, and have your code either stored on your local notebook, GitHub repo, or Google Colab, and follow the same thread. So like your card in the community, reply to yourself and write your project, what I built today and where I'm stuck. I saw a couple of you who already wrote your data in the card, and I really, really enjoy reading them. So if you haven't found your data yet, you can also go into other people's little card section and then read what they have in mind for their data to hopefully get you inspired. And tomorrow, I did see the comment in the chat. I will be walking through you my actual portfolio that got me hired. I'm a little embarrassed because looking back, there are so many things that could change, but it could be a learning moment for all of us together. And I also cover where to host your portfolio. There are so many options, and how I built mine with R. And I'll try to find the exact tutorial I followed as well. So if you want to go that route and have building your portfolio as a project itself, you can do that as well. Yeah, so I know yesterday we didn't get through a lot of questions. That's why I'm leaving space here today to answer any questions you might have. If you're still looking for a data source, we can look for it together. But otherwise, the presentation part of this live is done.
Awesome. And I can help out with fielding questions as folks have them. If you just want to submit them in the chat, then we can answer, or you can always follow that QR code that's in the upper right-hand corner, and that's going to take you right to the community. And so you can drop your questions in there as well. I also just dropped the link to the community again in the chat too. So yeah, go ahead and follow that link and you'll get in there and you can ask questions as you're going through any of this process. Maggie's going to be in there answering those questions, getting you unblocked, making sure that you're able to complete this project. I see Samantha saying, "Thank you, Maggie. Excited to start building." Awesome.
Excited to see what you come up with.
Okay, great. Well, on that note, I think this was really awesome and really helpful. You saw the full arc of how a raw idea becomes a really thoughtful analysis, and of course, how AI can support you at every step without ever fully replacing your thinking. And so here's what's going to happen next. Before tomorrow, you should begin implementing your analysis using the AI prompts that Maggie shared to speed things up, and then again, get into the community, post an update. That QR code is up there, and the link is in the chat again. And sharing can be super quick here, just like a thought, a screenshot, a question, anything that keeps your momentum going. And remember that you're not doing it alone. We're here to help you build. And Maggie is in the community, answering questions, which she's already been doing, and keeping you unblocked and moving forward. So strongly recommend that you get in there. Seeing a couple of questions come through now. Let's see. Prasenjit asks, do we need to finish this project MVP by tomorrow, or it was just a guideline on how to do the project?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would love to touch on this a little bit more. So the assumption is that you would come in with some of your own existing skills and to build a project. I have limited expertise on like every single aspect of data science, but I can definitely help you, especially with AI, if you have any like specific technical questions. But the goal really is in this condensed 3-day timeline, which I know is very tight and everybody has a million other things to do, you would to build a project from start to finish. And this project doesn't have to be the actual project on your portfolio. I know when I ask on my Instagram channel what's stopping people from building, it's like people simply don't know how to get started, or where do I find data? So I'm providing all of those information and knowledge to you, so you can build something, even if it's like an MVP, a mini version of a project. Maybe you do one analysis, that you at least get into the momentum and get familiar with how to do it. Because once you start building one, you realize how easy it is to just like keep going. So I really my hope is to get folks past that initial imaginary block or kind of waiting for the perfect roadmap to get started kind of moment. That's the goal. So yes, you are expected to have some sort of things finished tonight, analysis. It doesn't have to take like you 5 hours. It doesn't have to be the actual project that you're going to put on your portfolio, just something so you're walking through this process with us, with everybody else, hundreds and 200 of us together over the 3 days.
Awesome. All right, we have a question from Norma. What AI do you recommend to code?
So there are a lot of different resources out there. Personally, you probably see I demonstrated with Claude, and I'm a huge Claude fan, and I use Claude for basically everything, including like just talking to it, brainstorming for other things as well. So if you haven't tried Claude Code, and especially if you already are a Claude user, because I already pay the $20 a month, that gave me Claude Code for free as well. Within the $20 and with a certain limit. So if you're already paying for that monthly subscription, then this is a really good source. And if you're somewhat less technical and maybe you don't have your code editors already that you're familiar with, then I think Cursor is another one. So I actually built an entire course with LinkedIn Learning on how to code with Cursor. So I can make it free on my LinkedIn for 24 hours. That's no problem at all. If you want to look at how you can leverage tools like Cursor to code. And once you understand one tool, they're really all the same. And you can easily try out different things. But yeah, my suggestion is start with maybe the two that I recommended, and then go out there and see what, try other tools and see what you like the best.
Okay. Hallie is asking about giving business context to projects and explaining how, and she remembers that you said something about documenting constraints and trade-offs.
Yeah, this is something that AI can definitely help with, especially if you're not familiar with that line of business and you've never worked in that industry before. So like constraints, this is something that if you have worked maybe on a data team, it comes pretty easy, relatively easy to you, because you realize when you're working with engineering, with product, with sales teams, that there were like constraints everywhere. Like engineering, if you use their resource on this project, then that takes their bandwidth away from something else. Maybe like it's a different critical launch that they have on their plate. So you want to think in like a team environment, collaboration environment. What are some of the trade-offs? Like there's the classic ones like speed versus cost. For example, if you're using cloud services, AWS, Google Cloud, you can have all the data available that you're drawing on in real time, but that's going to slow down, right? That's going to slow down your system. That's going to cost a lot. Or you can have a mini version. It's like how Claude or ChatGPT has different models for you to choose between complex tasks or simple daily tasks. That's the kind of thing that you want to think about. I hope I give you a couple of examples, but you can also ask AI, what are some of the trade-offs that somebody who's working in this field for this project would think about, and it would give you some pretty good responses.
Awesome. Alrighty. Amelia is asking about building with AI and wondering if you found yourself overwhelmed ever with suggestions that you should be doing more than what you'd originally intended. How do you set boundaries to keep yourself grounded with your initial intentions without trading off the ideas provided from AI?
So that's a really, really good question. And I think with the amount of the speed the AIs allow people to build companies, there's just overwhelming amount of like, there's a new app popping up, you don't have to learn it, unless you're very interested. But AI is built on past data. it is generative, but it puts words together based on what it's seen from its database in the past, right? So AI is not great with when it comes to an innovative idea or something novel that it's never seen before. So if you have ideas, I would trust your intuition, because AI is definitely not always going to be right, and it's going to tell you based on what it's seen. That's why there's so many studies out there about the inherent bias that AI has from humans. Like back then, when with hiring, when it comes to the male female ratio, a lot of discrimination that's already baked into AI. So I definitely think that you should not listen to AI all the time. And if your initial ideas you stand behind, use AI to help build on it, but don't use AI to make those decisions for you.
Super smart. I feel like that's applicable sort of across fields. That's a great question. It was such a good question. Ji Young is asking about if what's enough when it comes to presenting your work. So recognizing that this might be something that you're in fact covering in quite a bit of detail tomorrow, is it good enough to summarize a portfolio project or the full portfolio of projects in a CV with just a GitHub link to actually pop out to the projects themselves? Or is it better to have a separate website or blog for the portfolio?
Yes, great question. I definitely recommend having a separate blog or portfolio, and the reason being, especially in tech, your resume should only be one page long. Like maybe if you worked for more than 10 years in the industry, then you are allowed to have 2-page resumes. But for most of us, it's going to be a 1-page resume. And you don't want to waste all those precious space on describing your portfolio projects. I do recommend that you can have a project section if, for example, you're looking for internships and you don't have a lot of past internship, or if you are pivoting from another career, which you can still have your previous career on your resume, but you can have a project section to get past through the initial ATS stage, where nobody's looking at your resume, but you can put all the keywords in your portfolio project description that's going to get you past that first round to a recruiter. That's given if you don't have a referral. And so if you do have that space on your resume, then yes, you can write a little blurb on your resume for maybe 1 to 2, I would say max, projects. Even in that case, I would still recommend having a portfolio, just because it's going to give you more space to showcase, for example, your visualizations that you did and any of the insights that you couldn't cram into the little one. If people are curious, they are able to click on it and see how accomplished you are and what you're able to do. So yes, and another note on this, because you asked on GitHub, is that every time actually when I saw a GitHub link, it entices me less to click on it than if I saw your first name, last name.com or like a customized link, because I know what I'm expecting. I know I'm going to be looking at folders of codes and maybe a README page at the beginning. But if it's something like that's novel, that's like customized and has a lot of thoughts put behind it, I'm more likely to click on it, and you have better customizability up as well, to put like your picture on there, to put, for example, on my portfolio, I had a section where I asked my past professors that was back in school, that I've worked with, to give me what's the word? What's the word? Like words they would say about me, like kind words they would say about me. I'm blanking right now. So they would give me like feedback, like Maggie was so dedicated and was great with working with her. I would also have space to put things like that on my portfolio, that I didn't have a space for on my resume. So that's also another reason to have your own website.
Awesome. All right, that is it for the questions that have come through so far. But that was actually pretty much a perfect transition, because tomorrow we are going to be diving into all of that and more in so much more detail. Maggie is going to be showing you how to polish your work into something that is portfolio ready. So yeah, get super excited for that. We're actually going to get to look at that original portfolio, which is going to be super cool. And presentation, it obviously really matters when you're advancing your career and you're about to get all the cheat codes in order to be able to do that in a really confident way. So we are so excited to see you again tomorrow for day 3. In the meantime, once again, please go ahead and use the QR code to join the community. I will post the link one more time in the chat just to make sure that you know where you're headed. Yeah, and thank you so much for coming. It's such a pleasure and so exciting to get to watch Maggie share all of these amazing insider insights with everybody. So yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you in the community.
I just want to add one more thing in there is I know somebody asked about like cursor, and I think Natalia's comment, yes, please, is about me making it free on LinkedIn. So I have the capability to do that. If you can connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn, then I'm going to post that link. It only allows me to post on LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn and LinkedIn Learning. So I'll be post that 24-hour free link to the course on my LinkedIn by end of day today. So if you can follow me, connect with me, then you'll get that link and access to that Coding with Cursor course for free.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Amazing.
everyone.